wrapping up the weekend of footy.
Get Purple in here and discuss footy.
This is Damo's recovery session.
Oh, how good the new studio's here, Purple.
I like it,
Guess
Jim.
what colour the lights are?
What was that sentence?
Guess what colour the lights are?
Oh, that's it.
Well, they were a different colour to what they are right now, Bill.
And
What
what
are
are
they now? They look to be a purple shade right now, Bill.
For your hair. Hey, I've got a question for you two and myself, because I'm the footy bloke here.
Yeah, you're the expert.
So we've gone 17 rounds, done and dusted, only 6 to go.
16 matches, 17 rounds. Yep.
Right. 3 teams are on 12 and 4.
Yep.
3 teams on 11 and 5.
Yes.
Grand finalists right now.
Geelong
Geelong.
and Carlton.
Carlton.
They're
They're playing this Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm eagerly looking forward to that game.
So am I.
Very much so. Who are you putting into that conversation?
I
Jim?
would say Melbourne. I'm still bullish on
Yes,
Melbourne.
Melbourne, yeah.
I just think what interests me with Melbourne is when they get beaten, it's the same way every time. They get beaten around the footy, they get beaten in the contest, they get
I
beaten in
didn't want an
clearance.
editorial. I just
So
want to know.
they got to fix that up.
Yeah.
But they've got to do something, Purple. But now, I love Goody, but I get the feeling he's like most coaches, and that he's very
Melbourne
stubborn.
and Melbourne
So I
and
think he needs to work out how to stop that from
Melbourne
happening.
and
Because I can't stand you. Who else is in
Freo?
top
Well, you
three?
got
Freo. let's say
Freo,
Melbourne.
Brisbane,
for your
Carlton.
nephew.
Yeah, that's
Your
it,
nephew.
Freo.
Who
I'll say
might have
Freo.
picked up more Brownlow votes.
Oh, no,
Oh.
he was very, very good.
And
Every
just
week.
on Carlton, Geelong this weekend, what about the midfield's going to be huge? Saturday night MCG, Carlton's home game.
You'll be making a fool of yourself in the box, won't you, again?
I've been
again.
invited by Carlton.
Draft or Carlton Footy Club?
Good one. But I'm on the dry July, so guess what I'm drinking? Carlton Dry. Ah! Anyway, so battle of the midfield. But what about the forwards?
Yep.
So you got Tom and Jerry, 43 and 46 goals, so they've kicked 89.
Yep.
And then you got Harry and Charlie,
87.
86, 36 and
86.
50.
Yeah.
How good's that?
And then I think equally intriguingly, you've got a De Koning on either team as well.
Yes.
Oh, you have.
I'm as excited about those two going. And I know they won't play on each other, but they're going to find themselves at various stages
Chris
in the
Scott
same.
should put, what's the job?
He's got Sam.
Sam. Sam should start in the ruck.
No, he won't. He'll start at centre half back
No,
where he's
just-
just dominating.
Well, yeah, I know, but just for a bit of fun. Sorry, Damo.
That is the big game to come out around 18, though, isn't it?
And it's the MCG too, which
Yep.
is the kryptonite for your mob.
No, it's not.
So how are you going to go
Geelong
there?
beat Richmond there 2 weeks ago.
Richmond are not exactly the 2017 version. How are you going to go
Well-
at the MCG against Carlton?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
Oh, look
know.
at him. His whole demeanour changes.
And you still haven't got Tom Stewart.
Oh, that's all right.
Available for
We're
that
allowed. Not every team's got their full squad, Damien. Everyone's got injuries and things.
Carlton's close to full strength. Close.
They got a
Close.
couple
They got a
out.
card there. They do.
Just off the top here, Noah Anderson. I just want to say well done to him. Noah,
Yes.
of course, kicked the goal after Soren for the
Oh,
Chol
listen to
Coast
Bill.
Suns.
If you hit one button.
Do you hear that? Chol Coast
Yeah.
Suns.
No, we went with that one, 8 weeks ago? I think that we did.
Good win against Richmond, but you got to play it because
No, you
well
don't.
done to the young fella. This is Noah Anderson kicking the goal after Soren.
It's going to go now.
Wow, you send it. Noah Anderson to win the game for the Suns. We're right behind it to keep this season alive.
Billy, you are king.
I didn't know where you were going.
Can you believe
I
it?
actually didn't see what he was doing with that, Jim. I'm
Oh,
obviously
really?
naive, aren't I? Yes.
Purple, you must have known
I know, I
that
did.
crap
I-
was coming.
I
How
thought
are you, Damien?
I thought we were going to start with Noah Anderson, who might have been best on ground even before that kick.
It was like Brian on Saturday, consistently asking Ash when was the last time North had a draw with Collingwood.
Oh, boy.
And we all went, 1977. He goes, I'm pretty sure there was another one. And no one said anything, so we called us went on. So
Yeah.
he goes, no, I think, Ash, there was another draw. Anyway, he went with it that often that we
Yeah.
eventually worked out it was 1988
And?
Brian had kicked 7. So that's the only reason he wanted it mentioned.
Come on, Brian.
And it's as similar as rock and rollin' season.
He's not quite right, Brian.
Oh, he's
Is
not
he?
quite right.
No,
What about you?
no, he's calling sometimes. No, I've got some at 5:05. We're going to have a
have
chat
you?
about Brian again. Yes,
really?
Yeah.
No worries.
What do you got for us?
He's
Dave?
going
Well,
beautifully.
do you want to start with the goods or the bad?
Goods.
Goods. Well, we'll start with the goods, and that being the Gold Coast Suns, who had previously lost by less than a kick to Port Adelaide and Collingwood in the weeks leading into this Richmond game, Bill. And yeah, seriously, Anderson probably was best on ground even before that kick. I think the kick after the siren gives him that status. If it wasn't him, Touk Miller would have been in that conversation. Some of the heroics of Ainsworth, who's a good player,
Good
Bill.
player.
Really good player. Went high in a draft many years ago, but is now starting to really cash in on that status. Charlie Ballard, some heroics late, not just a smother on Jason Castagna, but also a good, I'd say, face or game-saving mark late after that moment too. And they finished the round only one game outside of the 8. It is still going to be an unlikely passage through to finals, but they've given themselves a chance on the back of that.
Don't be ignoring my man, Two Phones, Marbio Quackacholi. 3 goals too.
Yes.
He has been superb since he's been up there. They've allowed him to have the phones. It's the only way they could get him.
I think
is
he's
if they
got
said
3.
And he's allowed the eye watch, so he can check the text while he's
Can
playing.
you talk on the iWatch?
and it's making a difference. He is quality, man.
Yeah, and to think what he's been able to do in the makeshift forward line alongside Levi Casbolt, as the two tools up there, given, as we've said many times, the Ben King going down before the season even started. It's a good story already. It could become a whole lot better, and they've got 6 matches now to still get themselves into the 8.
Well, we all want to see him in there.
Yeah, I think we do. I think we do.
They're the people's favourite at the
And
moment.
they were 2-5, I reckon, weren't they?
It was something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
It was a slow start.
Nice
Yeah.
turnaround.
It was.
Very
Need to also hit the Cats in a positive way. They're on a 7-win streak now, as we know. They're doing it their way, Jim. It's a controlled form of football, which is similar to what they've done in recent years, but there's additions to it, aren't there?
They're taking the ground. That's what I like. They're actually getting it in.
They're not going backwards.
And
Yep.
I'm sure
Yep.
if you talk to those two massive forwards,
Yes.
they will be loving it.
Yeah, and they're both, and particularly Cameron, getting right up the ground himself, but enjoying that aspect of the role. It's sometimes a burden for a forward to play that way. Just the organic growth of a footy club is so important, and Tom Atkins is in that part of what the Cats are doing. He's just at home as a midfielder, and he'd worked his way through the system, hadn't he, Bill, as a forward and as a back, but now that he's in the middle and not needing Selwood to play that manic role that he's always played, but he's still important in what goes on. Collingwood, I know
Well
they
done to
only
Chris
beat-
Scott, by the way. Gets
Absolutely.
ignored
Tom
too often,
Atkins,
been superb.
I reckon 3 years in a row, wrote to the Geelong Footy Club. They said, no, we've been watching your local. No, you're not up to it. All right, come down. Finally plays in the VFL, then captain. I reckon it took him 6 years to play his first game. Like a great story.
Yeah.
Just stuck at it.
And he's still getting better now, isn't he?
He is. But when you look at it, there's Menengola, blokes like that. Blixarves is playing great footy.
Yep.
It's a really good team. Close as does, and that's funny enough. When your team's up towards the top of the ladder, you have 10 or 12 or 14 blokes that just play their role every week and play well. And that's what's happening at the minute.
Dangle addition and dynamic of the not just the forward line, but the whole team, because he does get up the ground a bit too, Jim, when he needs to.
No, they're going beautifully.
Just quick cross over a few more positives
Collingwood,
before we go.
7 in a row.
7 in a row. It was only North Melbourne they beat, but they were 28 down. They didn't have Darcy Moore again, and Nick Larkey was turning it on, and side bottom Adams just willed them to another win. It's really,
So they
really
have
impressive.
Adelaide in Adelaide. Then they got Essendon, Port Adelaide, MCG. They could win the next 3, 10 in a row.
Yep.
Play finals.
No, they're definitely playing finals. And well done to Craig McRae, by the way.
Yes.
Because they have changed the way they're playing, and it's great to watch beside of anything else.
They have. Freo, good win, worked out finally. It's taken 4 weeks of Nat Fyfe being back into that team, but how it's going to work and how it's going to work is him closer to goal, occasionally in the second half, potentially going into the midfield, but not relying on him. And he is, for the first time this year in the 4 games back, looking at home after what he did against St Kilda.
Hold on, we've got some more positives, and I've got a couple I'm adding in too.
Really?
And rare that we are positive about this particular fraternity.
More with Damian Barrett next on the Rush Hour Triple M.
We're doing the positives round 2 here, Purple. I've got a couple I'm throwing in. Firstly, Luke Davies-Uniacke. They haven't had a lot to enjoy in North.
Yeah.
He is elite.
Yeah, I'm glad you've thrown him up because I've been slow to embrace him as being elite, but I think with what he's done this year, and particularly on the weekend, which adds another layer to what he's been doing in 2022, I agree. Do you
7 or 8 centre clearances on his own. I mean, he is a phenomenal talent. It's taken him a while.
Yes, it has.
It's his 65th game or something, so he has taken a while to get to this level, but he's always, as a junior, seen as being, the best of that draft, and that was a bloody good draft. That was Chera and Andrew Brayshaw and
That was that one.
Rankin and all of them. So he's a star. Love
And
that.
North, Jim, they were good.
No, better. I mean, faded, but you certainly love that.
Yes,
you
that
just then ask the
response.
question,
Yeah.
where is it for the other weeks, but it was much better. I agree.
Larky was good.
Larky's good with 5. The other thing I loved is the way the game I saw Saturday was umpired, and that is if you have the ball and you choose to lower yourself and try and drag a free kick. For me, there's your pry guy holding the ball.
You're talking about Jack Ginnivan?
Well, but he's just an example. There's lots of players that do it. And for me, it's dangerous for a start if we're worried about concussion in the game and, God help us, something even worse happening because you lead with your head.
So what you're saying, Jim, is if the tackle initially hits the upper part of the arm and the player being tackled then slides down, that's play.
No, it's more that if you have the ball, see a tackler coming and deliberately lower to try and drag a free, for me, that's your pry gone. We've got to umpire this out of the game. Because firstly, I hate the danger of it, but secondly, I hate the look of it. I just think it's a poor look for our game. So I loved on the weekend about 2 or 3 times that they weren't paid, and I know people went nuts. But for me, the more we can umpire it out, and the more we can say to these players, stop doing it, or we won't reward it. Then we'll have a much better game.
And your prior goes the moment you choose to play for the free.
Your prior's gone.
Yep. It's hard to disagree with what you've said. Having said that, I thought some of the specifics of Ginnivan were overlooked in a way that he was deserving of a free kick. But in the overall premise of what you're saying, I do.
Well, I do know the AFL are hot on it, and it's taken too long for them to get hot on it, but it's good.
That's interesting.
Get rid of it.
He doesn't get free kicks. He should.
Yes.
Because of
because it's him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Move on to the bads, will we, Bill? Or...
Yes. I was just seeing who got the 10 votes in that game. Jim Davies Uniac got the 10 votes in that game. Nick Larkey.
Yep. Problems at Brisbane, and there's going to be more issues with COVID. Look, there's going to be at least one other big name that's going to miss this weekend. I'm just trying to confirm exactly who it is, but it's a big name again, and they've already had 9 changes.
But they'll come back.
Yeah, but will they come back well?
100%,
this is the issue, and this is what the club is now contending with. And I know there's been correspondence of sorts with West Coast, because it wasn't just the absence of the game in question when you've had the COVID bill. It's when you return, you're not quite right. Now, the COVID can knock you round aerobically for the next match, but what there's also a fear of, there's a soft tissue element for having missed the game of footy at this stage of a season. So they're in a world of hurt. They've lost 4 of their last 7. They were 8-1. They lost yesterday, I thought, quite badly. Now, Chris Fagan will argue that any time you have 9 forced changes, that's going to pose a problem.
That's a good argument.
It's a good argument.
It is.
But I still feel they could have won the game and probably should have won the game. McCluggage missed a goal late. McInerney missed a goal late. Neil nearly kicked a goal. I don't think in the end it was the absence of,
they had no
key
good
players.
Who was their best player?
Well, Lockie Neal played, Bill.
He was he was
Who was their best player? In terms of the big picture.
Because Caldwell, Wright, Laverty, Merritt,
definitely.
they all get the votes there in the other coaches. So
they'd have to.
They didn't have enough players, good players.
But again, they started the season 8-1, have now lost 4 of 7, and are not getting what they want out of Hipwood, who's returned from the knee injury, or Danaher.
Joe Danaher.
Yeah, he hasn't returned either. So Richmond, similarly, we touched on the Gold Coast Suns win, but they've now conceded another loss, which should have been in the bag. The 40 points against the Suns. There was a 3-goal, 17-point lead in the last quarter against Geelong. There was a 33-point lead against the Swans. All those games have been lost. It's costly, Bill, because they're only just hanging into the 8 now, and yet they were
9-7 they are
on a roll to that could have got them up to the top 4.
And
again
without a ruckman this weekend.
They will be without Nankervis.
I'll tell you who is a star, Bolton. Genuine star.
Unbelievable, isn't he?
He's their best player this year. He wins their best and fairest, don't he?
Yep. I'm worried about Melbourne, Jim. I know you just said before you'd still have them in the grand final, but I'm not seeing it at the moment, and I'm not seeing a click of the fingers like they were able to do eventually last year and getting ourselves out of that.
What are you worried about?
I'm worried about the forward line, Bill, massively, and there's no Tom McDonald this year. And then while he wasn't the biggest name of what they did last year, he was there throughout the entirety of the home and away season. Effectively, he missed a couple of games, I think, but he was there. He hasn't missed the body of work he's now missed. It's not functioning, that forward line. And, we saw, now again, they were elite talents in Cameron and Hawkins, but they were able to break down the great combination of May and Lever in a way that hasn't been done too many times.
So they've lost 4 games for the year, I reckon, Melbourne, have they?
They've lost 4 of the past 6.
Yeah, so I reckon that's... And if you look at those 4 games, the losing pattern is all the same. It's contest, it's clearance. So that's what I'm interested with Goody, is to look and go, well, what are you going to do? What are you doing differently?
Yeah.
It's the same look, the same 3 pretty much, Viney and Oliver and Petrarca are the ones in.
Just
Gorn,
on that,
I reckon, was underdone.
Very underdone. And probably ideal world wouldn't have played.
Yes.
But it's getting desperate now. I say desperate because, as we speak, Bill, the top 4 is not a guarantee on what the ladder looks like.
As I said, three teams are 12-4, and 3 teams are 11-5. So it's so close, very, very close.
You've got Port Adelaide in the Nations Centre on the weekend. You'd expect them to win that.
Well,
and then
up
they got
there.
the Dogs at Marvel. You'd expect, they should
I
win that.
wouldn't say expect them to, because Port Adelaide's going very, very nicely at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I am much more bullish on them by the sound of it than you are.
Oliver out for a week.
So what do they do there is the interesting.
Yeah, it's at least one. I mean, it's a badly fractured
Speaking
thumb.
of which, I'm sitting with Luke Hodge at halftime up in Friday night in Sydney. And they showed the vision of it. And then Tom Brown said he'll miss one, maybe two.
Yeah.
Hodges just leaned across to me and he said, "You're not missing one with that, surely." That's how tough
Jim,
Luke
it's
got. He
a
just
broken
goes, "You're
thumb."
not missing one." I'm like, mate, he's broken his thumb.
A person in the street would miss 6 weeks.
Oh, geez.
Wouldn't go shopping for 6 weeks. Hey, Phil Davis, he's in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, he is. So he ripped the
Straight
hamstring
back.
again. He's out for the year again. There is a contract of sorts there for him for next year, but given it's the second serious one,
yeah.
and you feel for him, don't you? Because he's been such
Good fella.
a great contributor to that footy club, and I would like to have seen him go out on better terms, and hopefully he can have one more crack at it, but it's unlikely. And just one more worrying aspect in the
please.
Bads, Western Bulldogs. Again, we get to this stage though, and they're only one game out of the 8, but the way they lost to Sydney, particularly in that first quarter, and the words coming out of the mouth of the coach after the game, it's as much about the future as it is the remaining 6 games of this
Should
season.
we get a look at Duke's young bloke Friday night?
We're going to get a look. I reckon it could be this Friday night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope
Because
so.
we hear so
Yeah.
much about him. It'd be
Yeah.
great to have a look at him
Wouldn't
live.
it would be. Who wins that? Western Bulldogs, St Kilda.
Yeah.
Both disappointing.
Yeah, very.
All right,
'Cause-
now with some news kicking around purple.
well, just that with
No,
the...
well, we're going to have to take a break, but I'm saying, do you want to stick around and give us some news or not?
no, probably not.
Oh, I thought you were looking comfortable in these new purple
Well,
studios.
I spoke to Whitney on the way in, and she said 2 segments.
All
So
right, so the purple
I can-
studios got to
What
it.
about
right?
the bus?
I can hang around if you'd like me to.
No.
Normally you can't get rid of him.
Hey,
Get
get
the
stuff.
purple lights.
Set you off.
Do the buses.
We had
Must
the
have
buses to a
something
few
with Hutchie,
places.
haven't
We're heading back across to Adelaide, Bill, to just deal with the Crows. They've lost 8 of their past 10, and I reckon they've escaped a bit of the scrutiny that other clubs like North Melbourne, like West Coast, like Essendon, even like Hawthorn has suffered this year. And I think it's probably time to have a little look as to what's going on there.
See? Righto, purple.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get the lights back to white because they've affected him. He's not happy.
Damo's recovery session.